50 years ago, no one even dared say the word cancer.
I was there in the very beginning of it, and it was dreadful.
It was considered a death sentence.
At about 6:30, the telephone rang, and it was our doctor that called. And that's when the floor fell out from underneath us.
It took a long time for it to sink in.
I panicked when I realized how serious it could be.
Treatments were brutal and largely futile.
What we were doing was incredibly toxic. And it just seemed to me there had to be a better way.
This is a story of the battle against our enemy within, told by the doctors, the researchers, the politicians, and above all, the patients. The little girl who in 1963 became one of the very first children to survive combined chemotherapy for leukemia.
I knew I was sick, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Her survival inspired legendary US doctor Sidney Farber.
He loved the children he was caring for, and he saw himself as their protector. What he was saying to Congress is, we have 2 or 3 effective drugs. We need many, many more.
That's one small step for man.
Man had just set foot on the moon. If that could be achieved, surely anything was possible.
Congress is totally committed to provide the funds that are necessary, whatever is necessary, for the conquest of cancer.
But they had no idea how wily a foe they were taking on.
We thought it would be a handful of drugs used the right way, we would cure cancer. We were wrong back in the 70s.
There were blind alleys, and when there were new ideas, sometimes clinicians found them hard to accept.
I showed that to treat cancer you don't need to remove all the organ. No, it was enough to remove the tumor. And this changed totally the attitude of surgeons.
In the 1970s, scientists were derided, but quietly they'd been coming up with the answers.
One hope was in the mid-1970s that having discovered cancer-causing genes inside human cancer cells, for example, that this would explain the entirety of the process of creating cancer.
But still, no new treatments came. The 1970s were wilderness years for cancer. But behind the scenes, momentous change was taking place. The invention of the CT scanner, the birth of MRI, the development of tamoxifen, and the certainty that cigarettes did cause cancer. The 80s were golden years of discovery.
I felt extremely fortunate that I came across VEGF, perhaps the most important molecule in angiogenesis.
Patient power was growing. Computing power boosted the accuracy and effectiveness of radiotherapy. Screening for breast and cervical cancer was being put in place. In the 90s, Glivec, the first drug that cured.
I had patients who had been told that they had nothing left to look forward to get their affairs in order, your leukemia is progressing.
We talked to Julian Tutty, who has CML. What would you say if you met Brian Drucker?
I'd probably be speechless, to be honest. I'd just give him a hug and say, thank you so much. That man saved my life.
Thank you. It's just so amazing to think about the numbers of people whose lives have been affected.
For some cancers, like leukemia and breast, highly targeted therapies meant good news. Cancer knows no boundaries, and researchers soon realised that if they collaborated across continents, results would be delivered much more quickly. At last, death rates were beginning to fall in some cancers. But there are other cancers, like lung or pancreatic cancer, where there's been almost no progress over the last 50 years.
I just want to be around with my family, and I'm just not ready to go yet. I've got so many things I want to do.
Time ran out for Bobby. But the search for cures continues.
More recently, we've started to see more sophisticated approaches to changing the regulation of the immune system.
Now that we have experience of sequencing tens, even hundreds of whole cancer genomes, we can see laid out before us that actually everybody's cancer is different from everybody else's cancer.
The stage was being set for personalised treatments.
So if we know this drug is the drug that actually matches your cancer, that will have a huge impact on our current expenditure
I believe that if we do diagnose cancer early and manage it, we may not have some of the problems of needing so many very expensive drugs.
So are we now learning how to live with cancer? And what of the future?
We have to find a way to make this work economically, scientifically, politically. But we can get there if we try.
50 years of research, 50 years of hope, 50-inch progress. The enemy within. 50 years of fighting cancer.